Daniel Penny has now spoken to the media. I don't think any video is going to sum up the situation better than this almost 60-second clip of him speaking for the first time. This is in a Fox News interview after the whole thing.
I mean, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't really extend myself. I think this type of thing is very uncomfortable. All this attention and limelight is very uncomfortable, and I would prefer without it. I didn't want any type of attention or praise, and I still don't. Mm-hmm. The guilt I would have felt if someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed.
Now,
oh, wow.
I just love this guy. I mean, how could you not love this guy? Ryan Gerdusky said, no, but where does he go to get, vindicated, and Ron DeSantis is like, Florida. Hello.
Florida.
But MSNBC columnist Mahdi Hassan.
Mehdi Hassan, yeah, he's the worst.
He's like, just imagine if Jordan Neely had been white and Daniel Penny was black. Like, what? Like, what do you mean? If he was, why? I don't have to imagine this kind of stuff. Like, it happened last year. There was a black guy who stabbed somebody on the subway, to save passengers because this guy was going completely crazy. And what happened? Grand jury said, yeah, we're not going to indict this guy. And in fact, what happened? The DA's office said, under New York law, a person is justified in using deadly physical force when they reasonably believe it is necessary to use such force to defend themselves or others from imminent use of deadly or unlawful physical force. So we know what would happen if the hero was a black guy. He would be exonerated. He wouldn't have even gone to trial. The grand jury wouldn't have indicted him. And the DA's office had been like, we like this guy. But because he was white, they went after Daniel Penny.
So Josh, can you explain to me then?
By the way, this didn't happen 40 years ago. This is 2023.
Right.
A year ago.
It just happened. I think a lot of people are actually kind of confused how this was even brought to be in the first place. Typically, when something happens like this wasn't his family suing, although his family has sued since. This was the state of New York. So who in New York, or is it New York City?
I believe it was the city of New York, yeah.
And they're saying that it's in the interest of the people, of the citizens of New York City, to try this guy for a manslaughter charge, even though, as you mentioned, in the law in New York City, that's actually legal what he did technically?
Well, obviously, it's illegal they're claiming that it was manslaughter. So that was the whole point that they brought it up. And so Daniel Penny's lawyers made the case that, in fact, it was self-defense and it was exonerated.
Right.
So, again, usually there's prosecutor discretion, and most prosecutors will look at a case like this and say, yeah, that guy, no, we're not going to prosecute him. He's fine. But because because you have a communist Soros-backed DA in Manhattan, and because Daniel Penny's white and you want to foment the race wars, that's why they did this. Yeah. And literally, again, the MSNBC host like, what if you were black? Dude, what do you mean?
We had that case. That happened.
Yeah.
Josh said. Right. And I think too, the DA here, and we, on last Friday, we watched the video of her going on and on about how she had the black man who had attacked an 81-year-old to rob him, and it went wrong, and the attack led to his death, how she wouldn't prosecute him for that because he intended robbery, and because of systemic racism, blah, blah, blah. But I think that they are still riding high. Like you said, they're Soros-backed. They're still riding high off of the George Floyd riots and all of the Derek Chauvin case and all of that BLM, DEI, racism. They're riding high off of that. And I think what the trial shows here, that he was unanimously declared not guilty for this lesser charge. And what it's showing is there's a sea change. Like, they overplayed their hand to charge this guy with manslaughter, to charge him with all this stuff. and these New Yorkers on the jury, God bless them, like they didn't fall for it. They were not intimidated by all the Black Lives Matter protests going on outside or the media frenzy over, evil white man takes down poor Michael Jackson impersonator on Subway who just needs help. They weren't swayed by that.
Yeah, street artists. That's all they try to say. I mean, like,
I know. They were like sympathetic.
They ride the subway too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the ACLU put out a tweet. Jordan Neely deserved basic human rights, a safe place to live, enough to eat, and access to mental health care. He should be alive today.
And
But this is what I love
all
about
those
X,
things.
right? X,
Yeah.
reader context, hello,
I love
as
this.
part of a plea agreement with prosecutors after he punched a 67-year-old woman in the street in 2021. Jordan Neely was given free access to stable housing and health care at a treatment facility in the Bronx. He abandoned the facility after 13 days.
Right.
And the guy, apparently it was, I don't even want to get to how uncleanly he was. All the police officers didn't want to, it was just, he was not in a good state. Guy, he ravaged his own body, and it's just nasty.
Yeah, it's nasty. He's also punched a 64-year-old man in the face in 2019, kidnapped a 7-year-old in 2015. He's been arrested 44 times. So and this was another debate I was seeing online that I think has some uncomfortable truths in it. There's like New York City Council people, one of them, Tiffany Caban, she said as well, Jordan Neely deserved better than the violence of being denied access to stable housing and healthcare and then dehumanized for it. Jordan Neely deserved better than the systems that allow for and justify extrajudicial white supremacist violence against Black people.
White supremacy.
I've seen a lot. Well, the NAACP and BLM all said the same stuff, but they're saying that the answer is more funding. Like we need more mental health care. We need more housing for quote unquote.
Give the regime and the NGOs more money. Yeah.
Now, again, Jeremy Kaufman had a thread on this, and there was actually a study done in San Francisco. In the San Francisco Chronicle, again, not a conservative institution. They covered what happens when you give homeless more housing, when you do these kind of studies. As Josh was saying, they live in squalor, they fight and kill each other, they die of drug overdoses, they get evicted for failure to follow basic rules, and they threaten and abuse staff. This is all out there if you want to go check out the San Francisco Chronicle. I think an uncomfortable truth here is that in order for the public, clearly Jordan Neely, it was funny, there was even a moment during the trial where the prosecutor asked, what made you act? Why did you feel like he was threatening? What gave it away to you? Why did you then decide to do what you did? And he said the words, "I'm going to kill someone on this train. I don't care if I go to prison," direct quote, made me step in because there's women and children on the plane. I even saw a video this morning of another guy threatening people in the subway. There's a certain percentage of people, like there's a difference between, I saw a comparison of like street people and homeless people. A homeless person is someone that lost their jobs living in their car. They can be helped by these type of services. People that are punching people on the street, kidnapping children, threatening to murder workers, they can't just be in these housing conditions. They need to be institutionalized. They need to be taken off the street. And clearly because Jordan Neely's own father, whatever his deal was, he couldn't take him in, he couldn't take care of him. The hard truth is there's people that just need to be off the street. They need to be in complete confinement, and because they're a danger to society. And Daniel Penny was ironically, a product of the system being thrown at someone and having it unfairly be applied. He had to act because the system could not take care of individuals who were a threat to the common good and riding on the subway. Right. And he got the book thrown at him because he was white, obviously. Right. And now he has to go be public when clearly after this video speaking to the press, he doesn't want to be public. I've never seen a more humble, meek response to you triumphantly get out of this unfair prosecution. He could be screaming at the world. He could be talking about how racist everyone is. Instead, he just kind of humbly says, I'd do it over again if I have to. I couldn't live with myself.
He acted more saintly than I would have.
I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed. And
also to add, illegal immigration, in terms of the mess our border's been in, has not helped this situation at all. No. Specifically in New York City, where there's tons of people in the street we don't even know. They don't even have identification. They're not Americans. We can't deal with them properly either.
So it's just
Sorry, I was going to say tons of people in the street and the influx of easy access to these crazy psychotic drugs. So
Yeah.
that's another one. And I think that the San Francisco article, and this has been a problem with the mental health crisis and homelessness for so long. I mean, the problem goes back. I think there's several threads in which our country has failed. Jordan Neely's, and again, I'm not saying that like it's not his fault or like he didn't have agency at any point, but there's the whole the breakdown of the family, especially in the Black community, that goes back. His father, who is now suing and saying how much he missed his son and all that. Like, I understand the sentiment of missing your son, but you've been out of your son's life his entire life. You never married his mother. He was not there when Jordan Neely's mother was murdered when he was 14, and
But you
he
can
like
cash in on
witnessed
him
it.
now.
Yeah, and now he's coming in to cash his whole family. They're all like they're so strong. Black family is so strong. You're like, this is not a good testimony of the strength of Black family that you only show up at this point. And the reality is, the civil rights movement, for all of its good intentions, it was so infiltrated by cultural Marxism that it took along this desire to tear down the nuclear family, which was the only thing bringing Blacks up and out of the age of segregation. So that was the first major failure. The other was the closing of these mental health institutions that you're referencing, Tom. There's nowhere to put these guys now because we closed them all down starting in the 1950s and 1960s when, again, the civil rights movement comes along and with the Marxist infiltration starts to say things like, we could take care of all these mental health guys in our communities. Kumbaya, we're just going to sit around, smoke, listen to the Beatles, and we can take care of people with mental health issues. We can't force them to take treatment anymore. And with a lot of other factors, that's an oversimplification of the story, but that we don't have a place to put them now.